Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, the comedians that perform here, and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what helps make up our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Dawn Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers. I'm excited to introduce you to JMU's assistant men's basketball coach, Andrew Wilson. He joined JMU head coach Mark Byington after having served alongside him for all 7 seasons at Georgia Southern. The pair led the Eagles to their 3 straight 20-win campaigns. Prior to Georgia Southern, Wilson spent a season at Binghamton and 6 seasons at College of Charleston, where he also coached along Byington. Wilson played basketball for Florida State. As a senior captain in 2005 and 6, he helped lead the Seminoles to their first 20-win season in nearly a decade and became the first player in program history to hit at least 7 3-pointers in multiple ACC games. Wilson and his wife, Lisa, are the proud parents of Kate, Mackenzie, and Knox. And fun fact, we live in the same neighborhood where I'm walking buddies with his lovely wife. So this is going to be fun. Welcome, Andrew. It's great to have you on the show today.
Hey, Dawn, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and get an opportunity to speak with you.
Yes, I'm excited you are too. Fans, you can't see this, Laughers, but he has a lovely family picture behind him. So I feel like I'm almost in his house right now having a glass of wine with Lisa. This is going to be great. I've really enjoyed getting to know your family. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all even better. And we've had some really great conversations about your background and coaching and how you got here. And I think the Laughers would love to know that too. So what did get you into coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dawn. Obviously I had the opportunity to play college basketball for 6 years actually, because I had 2 medical redshirts during my time at Florida State. And during that time that I was injured, I really had an opportunity to kind of step away from the game a little bit and really look at it from a different perspective. Not being able to be out there on the court with my teammates and being able to play, it really allowed me to see the game through a different lens. And I started to spend more time with our coaching staff. Actually, the head coach who I played for, Leonard Hamilton, is still the head coach there now, 15 years later after I've left. And so just getting the opportunity really to learn from a coach who's a Hall of Fame caliber coach like Leonard Hamilton is, it really just sparked my interest. Seeing the different ways that you're able to help kids and to help better their life and better prepare them, I think was something that was really intriguing to me. It's not something that I grew up, dreaming about doing or always wanting to do. I kind of fell in love with it during my time being a student athlete at Florida State. And so really I give all the credit to, the coaching staff that kind of I was able to look at as a role model and say that was something that really interests me and something that I wanted to do and something I developed a passion for.
So what did that look like exactly? So you saw that the coaching aspect of the game while you were injured. Did you help the coaching staff when those times you were injured? What did that look like exactly?
Yeah, so I did actually. So I redshirted my 2nd and 3rd year at Florida State. So for 2 consecutive seasons, I did not play. And so what ended up happening is after my 4th year, I ended up finishing my undergraduate degree, but I still had 2 years of eligibility left. And so I was able to pursue a master's degree. I got my master's in sport administration. And so actually one of the work studies that I was able to do inside of my master's program was to do it inside the basketball office with the Florida State coaches. And so they actually put me to work. It was kind of a unique experience because I was almost like a graduate assistant / manager, but I was also still a player. But it enabled me to see a lot of the things that went on behind the scenes for coaching that a lot of the players never see. And so that's really where I, developed that first understanding of really what coaches go through on a daily basis. I think a lot of times as players, we think that our coaches just kind of show up for practice and throw out random things. And, we know they go recruiting because obviously they recruit us to come there. But being able to get behind the scenes like that really gave me a better understanding and a better appreciation for what they do.
When you were going through that experience and working behind the scenes for the first time, what would you say surprised you the most that they did that you just didn't even see coming? You're just like, what? They spend time on this? What was that for you?
One of the unique things about coaching, people ask me all the time, what do I do all day? Because you always hear these stories about how coaches, they work long hours. And even today, after I've been an assistant coach at the Division I level for 15 years, I still don't have a good answer for them. And the best way I can describe it is probably 20% of our time is actually spent actually coaching. And the other 80% is just helping your student athletes on a day-to-day basis, which can vary widely from day to day, depending on the needs of your student athletes. And so getting back to Florida State, my time there, that really just enabled me. That was a very eye-opening for me because the majority of the time that I spent around the coaches was on the basketball court during that 20% of the time that they were coaching. And so that really enabled me to see the rest of what went on. And it's kind of hard to give specifics as to exactly what it is. But it's just, it's everything. It's everything that goes on inside of a program. And so I was really fortunate to get to have that experience as a player because a lot of times you don't get that experience until you decide you want to get into coaching and you go to be a graduate assistant or you work in some type of administrative role within a basketball program.
That's so interesting. And you mentioned this happened while you were injured. I wonder what the difference is for football and basketball. A lot of laughers know my family personally. My son was on a full ride scholarship to play football at University of North Carolina. Now, when they got injured, and he had a couple during his tenure there, what they do is if it's not like pressing, I got to have surgery tomorrow, they wait till the end of the season. So basically, between New Year's and when the spring semester starts up again, there's kind of like this rotating surgeries, whoever needed them. There could be, I went in there one time, there was 12 other guys going through surgery in the next 2 days too, in that short time period, so that they could be ready when spring ball started. So that's how it works for football. How does it work for basketball with the injured players?
Well, I think from just a sheer numbers standpoint, I think football and basketball are just such a totally different beast because in Division I football, you have 85 scholarship players. So naturally you're going to have, more needs. For men's basketball, you have 13 full scholarships. And so for my injuries, they were season ending. And so I needed surgery immediately with my injuries. So I'm not sure that there's a particular time frame. I think it probably just depends on the injury and the severity of it, and if they're trying to get that player back during that season.
What would you say is a takeaway from going through the injury experience and rehabilitating from it? Because I know personally, from at least a mother's perspective, it's devastating, when my son went through that, and it can be really difficult. And you watch the perseverance through a mother's lens. But I'm talking to an athlete now who went through that. It is a very difficult time. Now, when you look back at it, what would you say you learned from it that has made you a better person today?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it, Don. The biggest thing is learning how to respond to adversity. And because I think a lot of times when you're an 18 or 19-year-old kid and you go off to college on a full scholarship as a student athlete, and especially some of the revenue sports like football or men's basketball, a lot of these student athletes identify themselves as a basketball player or as a football player. And when you get injured and it gets taken away from you, it forces you to reevaluate things, to maybe find some different interests that you didn't know were there. Because, and especially when you have surgery, because really things just get shut down from there. Because there's a certain healing process that has to take place. And so you're really just on the sidelines, just watching. And it's not a lot of fun at first. And so, the first, month or two can be really, really difficult. For me, I was fortunate. I had a great support group. I had a family who, really supported me through it. And, it helped me to find other interests. It's probably the best way I could put it. It allowed me to focus my energy on different things, focus my energy on my academics more. And to also, I think it's really what got me into coaching. It allowed me to explore different things outside of just playing, even though it was still with basketball, but it was looking at basketball very differently, not as a player, but now as a coach, and just trying to support my teammates in that way. But I think that was probably the biggest thing, was learning how to respond to adversity. And when things don't go right, which things happen in life, and you have to learn how to pick yourself up off the ground and still be a productive member of society. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that it taught me.
And I imagine it also, because you understand what it feels like, if you have a player that's going through that, you can offer some comfort, basically, and guidance and perspective to say, I understand what you're going through.
Yeah, I think I definitely have a unique perspective on that. When kids do get hurt, I think just about every year I've been coaching now for 15 years. I think we've always had it's part of the game.
Yep.
Players get injured, and it's a high contact sport. And and so I think I've been able to really help kids just because of my experiences of what I went through, and having a little bit of a different perspective and some of the things that they can look for and expect, not only why they're hurt, but on that road to recovery. And as they're starting to come back, some of the trials and tribulations that they're going to go through physically and mentally, because a lot of times if it's a major injury, you might have to relearn your sport in certain aspects. You might have to be a different type of player when you come back. And so I think it does give me a unique, perspective with some of our student athletes.
Yeah, I think so too. You mentioned a supportive family. Speaking of your family, are they a big basketball family? What can you tell me about them?
My family is not a big basketball family.
No. Okay.
They're not. My parents both attended Florida State. And so I was brainwashed as a child to go to Florida State. I think they put me in Florida State diapers. And from the time I can remember being a child, we were going to football and basketball games at Florida State. And so it was a dream come true for me to get the opportunity to go to Florida State and to be able to play the sport that I loved. I would have chosen Florida State over any school in the country. It didn't matter who was recruiting me. And that, looking back on it now, having that perspective and point of view as a 16, 17-year-old kid, it's probably not the best perspective, because I was willing to overlook certain things that I probably should have looked into more. Even though I love my experience there, I love my time. I just knew if Florida State ever offered me a scholarship, that's where I was going no matter what. And I had some opportunities to go some other places, but again, I just grew up loving Florida State. I had a certain familiarity with the campus because I grew up going there. My dad played baseball at Florida State.
Wow.
And so both my parents graduated from there. My brother went there for a couple of years. I had some aunts and uncles that went there. And so just a long family tradition of going to Florida State.
Yeah, definitely love at first sight with them. Yeah, that's really great. I love that. Now, you played for Florida State. It is an ACC school. And inquiring minds, that's me, wants to know what's the best venue you visited as a player and why is it the Dean Dome? In case people don't know, laughers, that's the University of North Carolina. That's where the Dean Dome is. Go Heels! Just saying.
Well, you know what? I grew up not liking North Carolina.
What?
I can remember the first time I walked into the Dean Dome. We walked in the back entrance and walked in through the tunnel, and you walk out and you see the Dean Dome. And I was a huge college basketball fan growing up, so I'd watched hundreds of games on TV of the Dean Dome. And you walk out and, you know, it catches your attention right away. Everything is blue, from the floor, the seats,
Yep,
the roof,
yes.
the banners. I think the speakers are blue. Everything's blue. Everything's baby blue.
Carolina blue, baby.
Yeah, that's right. And I never won a game in the Dean Dome. I had several close games there. I did have my career high there, Dawn. And
oh, you did? And what was that?
I had 24 points at the Dean Dome.
What?
And I had 7 3-pointers. I'm not sure I made the scouting report that game. That's probably why they were not real worried about me. We had a couple really other good players on our team, and I think the focus was on them. And so I was kind of able to get loose for some shots. But I'll never
sneaky sir, little sneaky sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. You bring up the Dean Dome, and it's an experience just to walk in there. You know, much less as a kid growing up watching games there, getting the opportunity to play in there, and then to have a performance that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And I've still got that DVD to this day.
What?
So I like the Dean Dome. I've been back there a few times as a coach as well. And to be honest with you, the Dean Dome's up there. The craziest atmosphere I've ever played in or coached in. Surprises people when I say this, because I played in the ACC, so I had the opportunity to play at Cameron Indoor and the Dean Dome, and to play at Maryland's arena when they won the national championship in the early 2000s. The name of that arena is slipping my mind, but it's at Wichita State is the best environment I've ever been in. I went there once as a player at Florida State, and I went there once as a coach when I was at College of Charleston. It is absolutely insane. It is 10,000 people, standing room only. People are just going absolutely bonkers for the entire time. From the warm-ups, from the time you walk in there until you leave, it is as good of an atmosphere as anywhere I've ever been.
That's pretty wild. I haven't ever been there. Now I want to go and see what that's like. That sounds pretty wild.
They love their basketball in Kansas, and I got to see that firsthand. Yeah,
that sounds pretty exciting. And did I miss how many people are in that arena in Wichita?
It's around 10,000.
Okay.
So it's not one of the necessarily biggest arenas,
right?
Because the Dean Dome's got 24,000 or something like that. But
right,
the atmosphere there, and they're kind of right on top of you. It was a tremendous atmosphere.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, you've had a lot of incredible experiences as a player. You know, pre-injury also, and the whole experience. Now you're in coaching. What parts of those experiences as a player have shaped your role as a coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, as a coach, if you're going to be a successful coach, you have to have some resiliency. Mm-hmm. You have to have thick skin. Coaching can be a very rewarding profession, but it can be a very tough profession too at the same time. And the reality of our business is, if you don't win, then most likely it's not going to be a good ending for you, and you're going to get your bags packing. And that can be a harsh reality sometimes, especially when you have a family and you're supporting your family in this way. Fortunately for myself, I've been with somebody my entire career who's been very successful head coaches. I got my first opportunity at College of Charleston. I got to work for a Hall of Fame head coach in Bobby Cremins, who had been the head coach at Georgia Tech for 20 years, has his name on the court there. And so I got the opportunity to work for him for 6 years and learn so much from him. Myself and Coach Byington, who's now our head coach, we worked together under him. And then getting the opportunity to go work for Mark at Georgia Southern and build that program up. It's, so I think I've been very fortunate. I've been very blessed. It is a tough profession, but getting to work for people that I trust, people that have been very loyal to me, and people that have been highly successful. It's hard. That's a hard recipe to come by in this business. And I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, it sounds like the challenging part is the pressure to win consistently. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it is. And trying to find a healthy balance between winning games, which is very important, but also developing those relationships with your student athletes, trying to better their life, because ultimately we work at institutions of higher learning. And the biggest thing for us, if you're doing this thing the right way as a coach, should be to see your student athletes go on and be successful in life at whatever it is, whether it's basketball or whether it's in the professional world, whatever it might be, because that's what's the most important thing, is trying to help your student athletes. And, a lot of times we recruit student athletes that might come from underprivileged backgrounds. And this is the first opportunity. A lot of our student athletes are the first ones in their families to get an opportunity to get a college degree. And to be able to be a part of that is something that's really cool. And knowing that you're going to help his trajectory in life, and that he's going to be able to help his family and the people who come after him, is something that's really rewarding.
Yeah, I bet a couple of examples come to mind of some young men's lives you have been a part of that are now, in the professional world. Are there a couple of young men that come to mind you might want to share some experiences you were able to be a part of?
I don't know, Dawn, if it'd be appropriate if I gave specific names, but
okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple of kids I have in my mind that give me that warm, fuzzy feeling inside, just because I know I can think of them, and knowing that what they're going to be able to accomplish in their life because they were able to go to college because of basketball is something that's really cool.
Yeah, and I imagine they stay in touch with you.
Yeah, that's the best part.
The most rewarding part, probably. Yeah,
being a part of their life and being able to see their successes and their families, and that's definitely the best part. There's no question about it.
Yeah, you've probably been to a couple of weddings, I imagine.
I have.
That's so great. I love that. Now, what was most attractive to you about taking the coaching position here at JMU, along with the coaching staff, as it seems you kind of came as a bit of a unit? So what did attract you guys to here?
Yeah, coaching is a unique profession from that standpoint too. One thing that happened, so when Mark took the job at JMU from Georgia Southern, I tried to get the head coaching job at Georgia Southern. And so I interviewed for the job along with a handful of other candidates. And, so much of getting an opportunity to be a head coach is timing. There's so many different factors involved. Our 7 years at Georgia Southern, we had the most successful 7-year run in the history of that program. And so we were really proud of what we had done there. The AD who had hired our coaching staff at Georgia Southern left 2 months before Mark took the job here at JMU. And so there was a brand new AD that had just come in at Georgia Southern. He gave me the opportunity to interview for the job. He named me the interim head coach when Mark took the job here at JMU. So I was really grateful for the opportunity to get the interview. He ended up going in a different direction, unfortunately. And so Mark then called me, said, "Hey, Andrew, I've got a spot on my staff for you. I'd love for you to come up here. I know it's going to be a big move for you and your family. It's a little bit out of your region, of where I had been so far. But, I was really grateful for the opportunity to be able to come up here. I knew a lot about James Madison. Actually, one of the associate athletic directors at JMU is a guy named Kevin White, who was at Florida State when I was playing there.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So we had stayed in touch over the years. Had no idea that we were going to get the opportunity to work together at some point. But, so that's kind of how it all came about. I'd always kept up with JMU from afar, just because of my relationship with Kevin White. I knew what type of place this was. I knew it was a place that was committed, that wanted to be really good in men's basketball. I knew they had been good at every other sport for a really long time, but for whatever reason, couldn't find that same success on the hardwood. And so Mark was from the state of Virginia, so this was an opportunity for him to come back home, and he knew a lot about the job as well. And so when I didn't get the opportunity to become the head coach of Georgia Southern, Mark was able to kind of fill me in on what was going on up here and all about the new arena, the new facility and the campus and the community up here and all that stuff. And so I just felt comfortable just because I had been with him for so long. And I felt like we could win up here. I felt like we could do great things. I don't feel like there's anything holding JMU back from becoming one of the most successful programs in the country. I really feel that way. I think we're in a great recruiting area. I think we have one of the most beautiful campuses in the country. I know we have one of the best arenas in the country.
Yes.
We have an administration that supports us and wants us to be successful. And that's more than you can say at a lot of places. And so I was really excited about the opportunity to come up here. I knew the hardest part of taking the job here was going to be moving the family and, just moving to a different region of the country. But also it was in April of 2020, which, as we all know, is a month into the pandemic. And so the world was pretty much shut down at that point. And so, moving a family with 3 young kids during that time was challenging, and just trying to navigate all that stuff. But, everybody's starting to get comfortable, the family is, and getting settled into their schools. And so it's been great. It really has been. Last year's success for our coaching staff was very unexpected. We did not see that coming, and it was a lot of fun. And we're just excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited you are here too. We're very blessed to have you here. Your experience and the person and type of human being you are makes us lucky to have you here. How has I'm interested in how the recruiting strategy has changed over the years for you.
Yeah, so the recruiting strategy has changed a lot, particularly over the last year. It kind of started with COVID, and once COVID hit, the NCAA shut down all off-campus recruiting for all coaches across the board. So every sport, we were not allowed to go off campus, go out recruiting, to go out to see any of these high school student athletes. And so that part was tough. And then as the pandemic kind of played out, nobody knew how long it was going to last. We're kind of still in it a little bit. The NCAA, I think, had a chance to kind of step back and evaluate some things with how they were being done. And so now one of the biggest rules changes has been with the transfers. And so now any student athlete, any undergraduate student athlete can now transfer for the first time without having to sit out. Now, it has to be their first transfer. If it's their second transfer, they still have to sit out a year. Mm. So that has really opened up a lot of new avenues for coaches to be able to recruit players. And so for us, I know this past year, we brought in 7 new players this past year, which is a lot because we only have 13 scholarship players on our team. So we brought in over half of our team as new guys this year. 4 of them were Division I transfers. And so I know for us at Georgia Southern, we wanted to recruit more high school student athletes at Georgia Southern. We wanted to bring in younger kids into the program and be able to develop them by year 2 or 3 down the road. We had a lot of success doing that, but I think now with the way the rules are structured, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of that. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate. I think it's really going to affect a lot of opportunities for high school kids because of the way the rules are structured right now by the NCAA and allowing these kids to be able to essentially be free agents if they have not transferred yet. And so it works out good for some kids and it doesn't work out well for others. And so, I think it's really important. These student athletes really have to do their research, before they make that big decision to maybe leave where they are and to try to pursue other opportunities. But it has changed our approach to recruiting tremendously. It's really flipped it upside down, to be honest with you. And we talk as a coaching staff at the end of this coming season, what is recruiting going to look like for us? And what you're going to end up having for the first time in the history of college athletics, you're going to have college coaches flying and going onto other campuses where these student athletes are enrolled at other schools and recruiting their student athletes. And so there could be a day in the spring after our season is over this coming year where we could have as many as 10, 20 college coaches on our campus recruiting our student athletes if they have put their name in the transfer portal. And so for the first time, that's going to look very different.
I would say that most definitely. Wow, we went through the whole recruiting process when our son was recruited all over the country, and that's astounding to really think about. How in the world do you build a team with the pieces are constantly moving? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's going to make it challenging. I think the old days of bringing in a freshman class of 4 or 5 kids and watching those kids grow up through your program and graduate as seniors, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen anywhere.
Right.
But I think those days are going to be numbered. And that's a little bit unfortunate to say, I think. Mm-hmm. Because as coaches, we're always preaching, hard work and being bought in to the program and teamwork and sacrifice and all these different things. And, the reality is now these kids can, at the end of the season, they can just decide to transfer and go to another institution and not have to sit out. And but that's the way the rules are structured. And so we have no choice but to adapt. And so those are the cards we've been dealt. And, everybody has to adapt to it. Yep. And, and then I think another piece of it now is the NIL, is
What's
the name,
that?
image, the name, image, and likeness. So,
yes. Okay.
So that's a whole nother topic that could be discussed for a long time. But essentially, the NCAA is now allowing any student athlete to profit off their name, image, and likeness. So that's something that's brand new as well. So between the transfer rule and now the name, image, and likeness, those are 2 major rules that have kind of shifted the recruiting landscape. And so you're going to start to see that become a major recruiting advantage for some schools as we move forward.
Yeah, I can see that. I could definitely see that. Does that change or create a new staff position on the coaching staff to help the players navigate that process in terms of their brand and what it should look like, or what kind of supports provided right now? I'm sure it's going to change, but initially, what is that looking like? Yeah.
That's a good question. Some schools have, to answer your question, I don't think there's been new positions created across the board. I know we have not at JMU. The NCAA has really been hands off with this, with the name, image, and likeness. Student athletes cannot get paid from the universities themselves. So this is all outside entities, outside companies. And so, for example, there could be a car dealership in Harrisonburg that decides to sponsor one of our players. And our players are now able to partake in that if they want, and they can profit off their name, image, and likeness for that. Or any other company in Harrisonburg. Or I know another way that a lot of student athletes are going to profit off of this is through social media, through advertisements with different companies. So, for example, if a player has 100,000 followers on Twitter and a company sees that and they want their product to be advertised by that student athlete because they have 100,000 followers, and then they could pursue those opportunities as well.
That's a crazy world we're living in right now. It's going to be interesting to watch all of this unfold. I mean, good for them, though. I know my son could have cleaned up in college if that were the case. He probably wants a time portal so he can come back in time. Oh my gosh. Last year, you and the team, speaking of crazy times, had to undergo regular COVID testing. What was that like?
That was tough. It was tough on everybody. I don't think life was normal for anybody in any walk of life. And I think we were along the same lines. We all wanted to play, and we knew there was going to be certain protocols that we had to abide by if we were going to be able to have a season. And so, it was inconvenient at times, but to be honest with you, Don, it was a small price to pay to be able to have a season and to be able to play. Our kids, because there was one point where the season was being considered to get canceled. And I don't think anybody wanted that. And so what we did at JMU, we had 3 COVID tests per week.
Wow.
For anybody, for all staff, all of our student athletes, anybody that had direct contact with our program, had to be tested 3 times per week. I think we got shut down twice last year for COVID, both during the season. And so we had games that got wiped out because of that. That was probably the hardest part. Mm-hmm. Just preparing for certain games. And I know we got wiped out, shut down on a Thursday night. We were supposed to play Friday afternoon against Maryland here at home, in our home arena. And we found out Thursday night that one of our players had a positive COVID test. Mm-hmm. And I think Maryland had already started to head down here for the game. And we had to call them and tell them that we couldn't play the game because we had a positive COVID test. I don't think that was unique to anybody in the country. I think that was happening all over the country, right, where there was games getting shut down. So yeah, it was tough. And, I think the hardest thing for our student athletes was not being able to have people in the stands. Mm-hmm. We had a great season last year. Like I said earlier, it was really unexpected. We had the best season in recent memory here at JMU, with opening a brand new arena, with a brand new head coach. And we didn't really get to experience that. We didn't get to experience the community being able to really come in and support our guys. And so we were gaining a lot of momentum on the court. And I think when we were out in the community, we were gaining some momentum, but our guys couldn't feel it on game day. They couldn't feel it in the arena. And I think that was hard for our guys. We had a young man that graduated this past year who got named CAA Player of the Year, who's now in the training camp with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and had an opportunity to become the all-time leader in points scored at JMU. But because our season got cut short by 10 or 12 games, he didn't get the opportunity to play enough games to get there. And so that part was hard on him too. So there was a lot of, tough aspects of it. But I think we were all thankful at the same time that we did get to play a season.
Yeah, that it wasn't canceled altogether, that you could still do something.
That's right.
Yeah. And I bet you there's some surprising takeaways from that too, that you didn't anticipate that make the program better or what you do better. Or am I guessing wrong there?
Well, I think more than anything, there's such a buildup for our guys right now to play in front of people again. And I just think the excitement, I think you're going to see this all around the country. It's not just going to be our team, but like when they get the opportunity to play in front of their fans, their first home game, it's just going to be like just such a release of energy, just so much excitement for our guys to be able to play in front of fans. And, as much as we tell our guys to focus on what's happening between the lines and on the court and don't worry about external things, if you're packing that place out and getting 9,000 fans in there and you have a raucous environment, that's a lot of fun, and the guys feed off of that. They feed off that energy and the energy that the fans are giving them. And so I just think it's going to be such a great experience for our guys.
I think so too. I mean, last year, due to the COVID, you've been kind of talking about it. It was restricted. You can only have up to 250 people inside. What can the fans, because you're kind of talking about it a little bit, so let's talk about it. What can the fans or first-time goers expect at the new arena this year? Will it be full capacity? Do we have to wear a mask? What's happening?
As far as I know, it is going to be full capacity. I'm not positive. I think the mask or no mask is going to be dependent on whatever the governor has mandated at that time. I think where we are right now, I think the masks are mandated indoors on our campus. So I would think that's where we're going to be at the start of the season, unless something changes between now and then. I think that people are going to be blown away when they just walk into our arena and get the opportunity to see it for the first time. I know I was, as a coach, just blown away by. It's a first-class facility. It truly is one of the nicest in the country. High major school, mid-major school, low major school. It's one of the nicest in the country, period. And I tell my coaches all the time at Florida State, and they get a little irritated with me, that I tell Coach Hamilton, I say, Coach, you would die to have what we have here. I said, our facility is much nicer than what you guys have at Florida State. And it is.
It is nice.
It is. Our arena could hold its own against any ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, you name it. It's one of the nicest in the country. And so I think fans are just going to be blown away by the building. That's going to be an added bonus if there's a good product out there on the court. And, I think we have a chance to be really, really good this year. We're coming off a season where we won the regular season CAA championship. And I think that's our guys' expectation. That's what they expect now. And I don't think you could say that going into last season. We were just trying to find our identity last year. We were trying to figure out who we were. And we found ourselves along the way, but we didn't have that at the beginning of the year. And so I think we do have more of an identity this year. I think our guys' expectation level is much higher. And so we're excited about the year.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's a beautiful facility. Laughers, this is a fun fact. I don't even know if Andrew knows this, but our friend Glenn Wayland is project manager for that basketball arena. And Glenn Wayland and my husband went to JMU as undergrads 500 years ago. No, but he's a big part of the reason of overlooking that project. And when it was completed, he gave us a tour of it so we could kind of see what it's all about. And it is absolutely amazing. That is for sure one of the most, I haven't been to all the basketball arenas in the world or in the United States, but it is impressive to say the least. So I think this is going to be an exciting year for JMU men's basketball. So Laughers, we're going to be sure to put that link that I'm getting ready to ask him about as we wrap up here. Can you share with the Laughers, Andrew, how they can follow JMU men's basketball and get them some tickets?
Sure. There's several ways that you can do it. Probably the easiest way is to go to jmusports.com and just click on men's basketball, and you can easily find how to buy tickets on there. You can buy single game tickets. You can buy season tickets at jmusports.com and just click on men's basketball. Other ways to follow is through Twitter. We have a JMU men's basketball Twitter account. We have a JMU men's basketball Instagram account. And I think those are the three main ways that you could purchase tickets and also follow along with our season.
That sounds really good. Laughers, we will put all those links in the show notes as well so you can follow them. Because even if you aren't a JMU student, an alum, or an employee, going to a game in the new arena is something fun and different to do in the Valley. The season kicks off November 10th at home in Harrisonburg. Like we said, the new arena is way impressive, and they do a lot of fun stuff for the fans during the game also. I know this for a fact because I went there last year, and it was fun, even with only 250 people there. So imagine what it will be like this year. Go check them out. Well, Andrew, this has been super fun and sporty today. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing what's up next for JMU men's basketball. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Don. I really appreciate it, and really enjoyed the opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
See you, Don.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring a show to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share us with a friend. Until next time, cheers.